Welcome back to another video by Upscale X-otics. I am Tristan from Upscale X-otics. As you can see right here, we are at FedEx. The reason for that is I promised I'd make you guys an incubation video. So back here in the truck, we have an incubator. That's right. So I'm going to show you guys everything from setup to finish, from setting up your incubator to putting in your very first clutch of ball python eggs. So let's get right into that. Guys, we're back. It was a bumpy road. We barely made it, but we're here. As you can see, it is huge. It's definitely a lot bigger than my last one. I haven't seen the inside of it yet, so we're gonna go ahead and unbox it right now. I'm not able to take it inside with all this packaging in it. It's gonna be too bulky to fit through the door, so we're gonna go ahead and open this up and then get so here we have it. Here it is. It is huge. I am super excited to get this thing all filled up. I don't know if we're gonna fill it up this year. I don't think so, but definitely next year we are gonna have it full, and possibly the other one we have. The other one is a little bit shorter. I would say up to here and about this tall. So we definitely can fit a significant amount more clutches in here. I'm super excited. Also, one of the reasons we're gonna be needing something this big is because, as you can tell, I don't show this room off a lot in the facility, but this room is our retic room. We also have a few boas in here, but as we know, retics lay big clutches. They lay huge clutches, 30 all the way up to, I've seen some have 60, 70 eggs sometimes. So I need to be ready for that. So this year we're gonna be really ramping up our retic breeding. So we need to be prepared for when that time comes. So before we talk about incubation, I do need to talk about setting up your actual incubator, because if you don't have a good incubator, you're not going to be very successful incubating eggs. So let's get into talking about setting up your incubator. So for those of you that are a little newer to the game, you might not know how to work a thermostat. I'm going to go over it very briefly, but there's plenty of online manuals and instruction guides online on how to work a thermostat. This one right here is of a Rainbow Electronics 200. That's the one that comes standard with the Sea Serpent's hot box. That's what this incubator is right here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plug in the heat source that's in the incubator to the thermostat. Make sure it doesn't go straight into the wall, because we need to control the heat source through the thermostat. So we're going to go ahead and connect that. So this cable right here is the heat source of the incubator. We're going to go ahead and plug that in directly into our thermostat right here. All right, now that that's plugged in, we have two more plugs. This one goes to the fan. Make sure that you're good, that your incubator, for it to be good and it work well, it has to have a fan. It does not always, sometimes you can get away without a fan, but a good incubator, in my opinion, should have a fan. It circulates the air. That way the top isn't hotter than the bottom, or vice versa. And I have a few techniques to also avoid the different temperature spots like that, or also avoid spikes. I'll talk to you about those in just a second. But we're gonna go ahead and first of all, we're gonna connect the fan. Yep, there we go, that turned on. Now we're going to go ahead and plug in the actual thermostat into the wall. The next thing we have to do is put in our probe. Now, probe placement is super important, because if you put it too high, the thermostat's going to focus where you put the probe. So it's going to focus on that area up here, and you might have a gradient down here, and it's going to be not the same temperatures up here. It might be a little lower, a little higher, depending, right? And same, if you put it too low, the vice versa is going to happen. So I like to set it somewhere in the middle. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll show you guys how I do that. We're going to put it right in through the probe hole that's drilled into the back of here. Now, because we have these awesome shelves with kind of these lines, I like to just pull it right through the middle and just keep it going straight down the middle. Yeah, that looks good to me. I'm going to keep it there, and obviously you can adjust it as you go. All right, so next we got to set our thermostat. Now, if you don't know how to do that, I'm not going to go super into detail, just because most thermostats are a little different. This one right here, like I said earlier, it's of a Rainbow Electronics VE200. I like this one for a variety of different reasons, but I feel like it's the most precise. It keeps your temperatures pretty accurate, so I like to use this one. But we're going to go ahead and set this to 90. The reason I'm setting to 90, I'm going to be mainly incubating no colubrid eggs in this one. I'm going to be incubating python eggs. Python eggs can generally be around anywhere from like 88 to like 92 degrees pretty safely, right? So I like to stick it right in the middle at 90. Maybe 89 depending if it's, you know, really, really hot outside and stuff like that, because that might affect this. So we're going to go ahead and set it to 90. So this guy is already set to 90, so I could just close this door right here and set it and leave it for about a week, minimum a few days, right? You don't want to just set it up and on the very first day put your clutches of eggs in there. Your eggs are very valuable, and now I'm just talking monetarily. Your eggs are valuable because that's life, right? Those could be babies in about 55 days. So make sure that your incubator is set to go at least a couple days before, preferably about a week. But one more pro tip before we talk about actually incubating ball python eggs more into detail. Here's a pro tip. In order to avoid some heat spikes, and what I mean by heat spikes is if I keep this door open, let's say this is already established and it's set. If I keep this door open for, let's say, 5 minutes and then I close it, right, the probe is now reading that it's colder. So what that's going to happen is as soon as I close it, this is going to try to pick up the slack, and it's going to turn on the heat sources at kind of like a higher rate than it normally would. And now that might cause the inside to be around 95, 96 for a prolonged period of time, maybe a couple hours, until it balances out back to its, you know, original baseline of 90. So you don't want heat spikes. One way to avoid heat spikes is by using these water bottles. Now, these don't have to be new or anything like that. Just make sure that they're closed so they're not spilling everywhere, right? And what I like to do is I like to set a couple at the bottom and a couple at the top. And these are going to absorb a lot of heat. So that keeps kind of like the ambient temperature around the incubator pretty solid, pretty stable. So we're going to go ahead and add some of these. All right, so now we have all our water bottles in there, and you don't worry about how many water bottles. I would say right now, like I put, let's see, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. I put 8 of them in there. I could put more. I would not put any less for something this size just because it's so big, right? With that being said, you could put more. I don't see that being any danger, right? It's just gonna hold even more true, more precise the temperatures. All right, guys, so now that incubator set, let's talk about actually incubating ball python eggs. Now, we're not going to use this incubator because, as I said earlier, make sure that your incubator is running for at least a couple days, if not a week, before you actually use it. So we're going to use the incubator that I already have set up over there. I do have room for one more clutch. I'm not going to talk about how to pull the eggs. If you want to learn how to pull a clutch of ball python eggs, please refer to last week's video. I'm going to put a link to that right below this. But what we're going to do is we're going to collect that clutch of eggs, and I'm going to show you guys how I like to incubate. I'm talking about what substrate do I use, what kind of tubs, and everything in between. So let's get right into that. All right, now let's talk about actually incubating ball python eggs. Now, we're going to need a few things. One of the things we're going to need is a 6-quart Sterilite tub. Some people use some tubs with latches on it, or the Iris tub is another good brand. I just use your basic Sterilite 6-quart, the one you can get at Walmart or Target for like 96 cents is what I think I paid for this one. For. We're also going to need a scale that measures grams, so your just normal kitchen scale would work just fine. And then our substrate, my substrate of choice is vermiculite. You know, some people use perlite. I've experimented with a few other things, and I've honestly found that vermiculite to me is the most consistent, something that's reliable and dependable. That's what we want when we're hatching ball python eggs. So next, let's talk about actually setting this up. The first thing that we want to do is make sure that I like to drill small holes on each side. As you can see right there, one hole right there, and then one hole right there. That's going to provide just a little bit of airflow so that it doesn't get stagnant in there. And you know, some people don't do it at all. I've tried with and without, and you know what? This is the way I was taught, and I've had no issues with drilling a smaller hole right there. Some people like to drill a small hole and still put press and seal on top, which is kind of like just this film you can get like at your grocery store or something like that. Next season I'm going to experiment with that a little bit more just to see if there's a bit of a difference. But like I said, this method that I do to incubate my eggs, I've had a huge success rate. I would say well above 90, probably over 95 to be completely honest, of eggs that, you know, has just perfectly. So once you have your holes drilled into here, the next thing you need to do is actually make sure that this is clean. So what I like to do is I like to get just some disinfectant. I use F10, which is a veterinary disinfectant. And I know it's not super easy to come by for a lot of people. I found it on Amazon, but I like to use F10. Just spray the inside down, spray the lid down, just to make sure there's no bacteria there, because like I said, these are going to be humid in here because we're going to add vermiculite and water, and then humidity with bacteria is going to grow mold, and we do not want moldy eggs. So make sure that this is clean. I have already done that. So we're just gonna go ahead and keep going. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to add vermiculite to our box. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put our box on the scale and we're gonna tear it. We want to tear it so that it's precise and we don't have to do a lot of math. You just put it on there, press tear, and now your base level is 0. So now what we want to do is we want to add vermiculite in here. And you know, some people put more or less. I like to put exactly 300 grams of vermiculite. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, perfect. We are now at 300 grams. Next, we have to add some water. So what we're going to do, we're gonna go ahead and get a deli cup, just like this one right here, or anything that can hold water. We're gonna put it and we're gonna tear that as well. Now that's at 0 grams. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some water in here to get it exactly to 300 grams. So we're gonna have to 1-to-1 ratio by weight, not by a volume, not by anything else. We're gonna do it by weight. So 300 grams to 300 grams. So like I said, we're gonna put on here, just double check and verify, yep, we're at a base level, base weight of 0. Now you don't want cold water, but you don't want hot water either, right? You wanna have pretty room temperature water. So we're gonna go ahead and get that started. Perfect. Now we are at 300 grams with this water right here. Now what we gotta do is we gotta mix it. So we're gonna go ahead and just put 300 grams of room temperature water into our 300 grams of vermiculite. Now we're gonna go ahead and just mix it up. We wanna make sure that there's no dry pieces or dry bits of vermiculite. All right, now that this is nice and mixed, we have to add the eggs. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Before I do that, I do wanna talk about vermiculite because it just came to mind that there are different types of vermiculite. This one right here is very, very fine. I don't know if you can see right here. Let me hold it up to the camera. This one is very, very fine. Now they do have other ones that are a little bit more coarse or kind of like bigger chunks of pieces. Some people don't like this one because it's kind of dusty, you know, and as you're mixing, sometimes you can see the smoke going up in the air. It's not smoke, it's just, you know, little bits of vermiculite. Now, some people don't like that. I don't have an issue with it because I feel like this kind of more finer vermiculite just holds humidity better. I don't think it makes a difference, to be completely honest, but I have used both, and I just feel a lot more comfortable with this one right here. I feel like for some reason it just holds humidity a little bit better. It could be completely false. It could be just be my head, but I think I've been more successful with this finer one. So if you don't know where to get vermiculite, I got this one at a gardening store. I've been able to get the other kind, the kind of like the more coarser kind, the bigger chunks, at Home Depot as well. So as long as you can find something like that, you can also obviously get some online as well. But with that being said, let's go ahead and add our ball python eggs. Alright guys, so here we go. We have a clutch of 5 beautiful eggs. This is actually from a het clown to a banana leopard pinstripe clown. So hopefully we get some cool clown babies. But a lot of people talk about whether to separate the eggs or not. I personally do not separate the eggs, right? If you get there early enough and these aren't stuck, yeah, sure, maybe separate them if you want. But realistically, I don't see any purpose in separating them. It doesn't really do anything. And honestly, if they're stuck like this, I know for almost 95% fact that they are in the right orientation, right? Because if they're not stuck together, if I unstick them, now there's human error is involved where I can potentially, you know, kill the egg, kill the baby in there because I rolled it a little bit too much or something like that. But if they're like this, and this is exactly how I found them stuck like that, I know for 95% certainty that these are going to be just fine. Now we still have to candle them just in case. But I will show you guys. I'm going to put these down how they're supposed to be. We'll candle them together and I will show you. They're going to be pretty perfect, right? So before we do that, we're going to put them in our incubation box. But what we have to do is I like to make a little bit of a divot right here. Maybe not super deep, but what you want is you want your eggs to be about halfway inside of the substrate. And then I still like to kind of cover them. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that. Oops. So as you can see right there, I made a little bit of a divot. And I'm going to put them right there in that divot. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill that back up. Sorry, I don't have a camera person today, so I'm kind of doing this all by myself. So as you can see right there, they're about halfway in the substrate, just like that. And that's about perfect right there. Now, let's go ahead and candle them. And when we candle them, what we want to do is we just want to verify that the veins are on the top side. If the veins are on the bottom side, they're going to be drowned out by kind of like the yolk, and then your babies will not survive. So let's go ahead and candle them, and I'll show you guys what to look for. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and candle these eggs. So we're going to need a light. I generally use my phone light, but since I'm using my phone to record this video, I'm just going to use this flashlight right here. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. Now I'm going to show you guys what to look for. We're going to go ahead and turn off the light so we have a better vision on those veins. And we're just going to work from left to right, and all we really want to see is veins on the top side, and make sure that there's no just yolk on that side, right? So if it's yolk and you would see the underside, you wouldn't see this. You would just see clear liquid, and we clearly see a bunch of veins right there. We're going to move here, clearly see a bunch of veins right there. Next, over here, we have our veins. There we go. This one's looking pretty good. Last one, and there we go. So all 5 eggs clearly have veins. So that means these are all in perfect orientation, all veins facing towards the top. Now we got to go ahead and put these in the incubator. But before that, I'm going to talk about one important detail. All right, guys, now one last thing before we put our clutch of eggs into the incubator is a key detail that I would say is super important, especially if you're new and have big plans in ball python breeding in the future. I would say the biggest key detail right here is to keep track of your clutches. It is so vitally important. I don't care if you're new or you're already an established breeder, or you're new and you plan to be a very big established breeder sometime in the future. Get into the habit of keeping good records of your clutches for many reasons. One, you can see how the female did before. You can see how your male did before. You can see maybe if there's an issue with either one, if something bad happens. And two, you know exactly what was born when from what parents, and you don't lose track of any of that, right? So one thing that really helps me are clutch cards. I got into this practice of having clutch cards last year, and it has really been the biggest game changer. Now let me show you my clutch cards. So right here, nothing too crazy, right? I have the year, the season, right? So this is, all these babies are going to be from 2022, right? This is my 63rd clutch of the season, right? Our female was a het clown, and our male was a banana leopard pinstripe het clown. They were laid today, August 15th, right? And then as soon as they hatch, I'm going to write that down. I have the total, right? So I have 5 total eggs, 5 good eggs, and 0 slugs. And once they're born, I will put exactly what came out of that clutch. Now, I also have this right here, because sometimes you will put 2 males to a female. So if there's an alternate sire, I will write that right there. So this is pretty simple, nothing too crazy. This wasn't my idea, to be completely honest, right? Having clutch cards. I got this because I saw the legend himself, Justin Kabelika, have clutch cards. And you know what? I thought maybe I should get into the practice. So I made my own, and it's really changed the game. So I encourage you guys, make up something like this, steal this design if you want, I don't care. But it would really help you guys in the future. So now we're going to go ahead and take this on to our actual incubator box. And as soon as they lay, I'm not going to throw away this paper. I'm actually going to file it. I file it along with everything else. And then I also put it into a Word document and a whole software that I have just for keeping track of all of our ball python eggs, all of our offspring and our clutches. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. Now let's go ahead and put this guy into our incubator. Alright guys, so here's our current incubator. It's a smaller version of the Sea Serpents box. As you can tell, it's not as big, which is why I got the other one, because at some point this was so full and I had to use a couple wine cooler incubators and kind of build some of my own. But now that other one's going to lighten the load. But let's go ahead and put this clutch of eggs that we just pulled into our incubator. We're going to go ahead and set that one right on top of here with the rest. As you can see, I have a whole row in the back, so this thing is pretty full with a ton of babies. Close this up. And there we have it. In about 55 days, I'm going to go ahead and cut this clutch of eggs, and I'll actually show you guys what we made from this pairing. All right, guys, well, there we have it. Hopefully that answered all of your questions regarding incubation. If it didn't, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. Just shoot me a message through there, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. While I'm at it, please make sure to follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and all that good stuff. And if you like today's video, please comment, like, and subscribe. Share it to a friend. It would really mean a lot to me. Until next time, I'm Tristan from Upscale X-otics. Love you guys. Take care.